G'day, my name's David. I just wanted to do a quick video on my 4 go-to tools. It's a little bit different to unboxings and product reviews. This review is actually of products I use every day. It's not an unboxing. These are my go-to tools that I have to have, that I use in my Veggie Patch every day. First of all, a pair of fiskars secateurs. I was given these back in 2003. I use them every day. I use them for pruning plants. I've even used them for things they're not intended for, like cutting wire, cutting the chicken wire that we used to keep the rabbits out. Shouldn't use it for that, it's not very good to the blade, but I've used and abused these fiskars cutters. Absolute must have. 2003 vintage. Never failed, never had a component break, never had to tighten it. I've done the occasional sharpen on the blades. Just a must have in your pocket. My second go-to tool, and these are in no particular order, these are all as essential as the other. I've owned Leatherman tools for as long as I can remember. I remember getting my first Leatherman tool back in 1985, but I've owned just about every model of Leatherman tool that you could get. This one is my absolute favourite. It's a Leatherman OHT. Used and abused. I've actually worn the pouch out that it came with. It wore holes in it. That's the only disappointing thing about this Leatherman tool, is the actual pouch doesn't stand up to the abuse that the actual tool can. I believe this is a military grade tool that's used by some of the armed forces around the world, but I could be mistaken. Very easy to use, can hold on to it. You can actually, the thing I like about this is you can use it all one-handed, as I just did then. Hold the two sides here, out comes a pair of pliers, they lock into place. Very good pliers. Use this all the time on my trellises, working on steel work, cutting ties, cutting steel, cutting wire. Has all the essential tools that you could use, and I've used them all. Used and abused everything on this tool. As you can see, everything I'm doing here, I'm doing one-handed. All of these components lock into place. So what I love about this is that a lot of the cheaper multi-tools that you get, when you use them, the actual blades don't lock into place, and when you go to use them, put a bit of pressure on them, they can actually fold back and you can lop a finger off. This has got a very clever locking pin that locks that blade in place so that it can't come back onto you and cut a finger off. And again, one-handed. I think this is why, I believe why the military like this, is if you're a wounded or injured soldier, you can actually use all of the functions on this tool one-handed. You don't need to have both hands. So has a very good saw blade for cutting timbers. I use it for cutting bamboo and any other bits of timbers around the place. I use a lot of bamboo in my garden for stakes. So very handy for cutting the bamboo. It's got a good blade. I've just been using that to cut off my zucchinis. I've been picking zucchinis. That blade is just razor sharp. It has a serrated edge of a blade. That's a cracker of a blade as well for cutting cordage. All sorts of for cutting seat belts. If I was in a car and I had an accident, you can use it to cut a seat belt. Absolute brilliant Leatherman OHT. I love the stuff that Leatherman do. Quality is just unbelievable. Always in my pocket. This is always in my other pocket. This is a relative new tool. I've been using this for just over 12 months now. Bought this at a garden show in Melbourne. I believe the ones I've seen online, I've tried to buy these in Australia. You can't normally get these. Called a hori. Some weird rules in Australia. We're not allowed to have double-edged tools. This is a gardening tool. It's not a weapon. So I'm not sure what these stupid rules are. But bought it from these guys. Made in Holland. They had a stand at the gardening show. DeWit, I believe it's pronounced. I understand these are forged blades. It's a really thick blade. I use this for this is devastating on digging weeds out. For transplanting plants, it's great, nice broad. That blade is thick. You can put a lot of pressure on that, and the blade won't break. The ground will give. Whatever you're trying to attack with this or take to in the soil, it will just it'll take it apart. It's got a serrated edge, which is great for some. When I get we get tree roots next to my garden, so I've got here a tree, and there's roots that come into the garden. Whenever I come up against a root, I can put that edge against it and just tear it apart. Great blade. It's not really good for. I wouldn't recommend the blade for removing leaves or foliage, but certainly digging in the soil. I use this all the time for, and again, a lot of the gardening implements that you would buy at Bunnings or garden centres like that, they're just cheap Chinese crap. They've got no metal in them at all. If you did that, this is hard soil. I've got little forks and trowels I've bought, and you just break. They're just toys. They're not for serious gardeners. This is a serious tool for the gardener. I use this to dig my seed. I want to put seeds in. Very can quickly form a furrow, put my seeds in, and then go back along and cover them up. It's just a great utility tool. Very well made. 10 comes nearly halfway up the handle. Would like to have seen that come further, but that has a really robust handle. I'm not sure what the timber is. It's beautiful. It feels good in the hand. It's got a lot of solid weight. That is just a beautiful bit of kit. I wish that it came with a pouch. I didn't get a pouch with this when I bought it. Would have been good to have a pouch to be able to put this around the waist. But yeah, it probably, if that had happened, it's probably classified as a weapon or something stupid like that. But anyway, that is my number 3 go-to tool. These guys are with me. I carry them around with me as I work in the garden. This one is something that I was given as a Christmas present. I don't know what the brand is. There is no branding on it. It came from a local, a gardening shop, a rural ag shop in Lilydale in Melbourne. I can find out the actual name of the place and put it below in the email. But this is actually a hand forged. It's a blacksmith. It's been done by a blacksmith, I believe, a local blacksmith. It's actually a handmade tool, forged tool. Old school. It's a bit of a weird looking thing. I'll stand up here. It's about 5 foot long. It's an awkward looking tool, but when I first was given this, I thought, oh, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm used to using the old style, well, I call it a grubber. I'm from Queensland, I call it a grubber. I think down here they call it a mattock, but I'd call it a grubber. This hoe implement, it's just sensational. I do this to turn over all the soil in my gardens when I'm gardening. It is just, it's not overly heavy, but it is heavy duty. I've whacked that around some roots, and you can't bend it, can't break it. It is a beautiful bit of kit to use. So good for like your maintenance, where you've got weeds that you want to chip out weeds. It's just a really easy tool. I'm just doing this one-handed, letting the weight of the tool take this out. I'm not even putting any pressure. it just, for chipping out weeds and using, it's just a great piece of a kit. We have some Vietnamese gardeners that help us here on our property, and there'll be, you know, a dozen of them will come to the property to help us around the garden, and they'll have a race between them to get to this one piece of equipment. It's just they know what's good to use, and they do gardening every day, and this is their favourite bit of kit. So they're my 4 favourite tools: my Fiskars secateurs, Leatherman OHT, brilliant, and my DeWit hori, and my hoe. Hope you've enjoyed this. Like, and talk soon.